Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I've never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. This is Bettor Off Dead. NFL Week 4 edition. Is it Week 4? I think it is. I don't even know, man. We had another winning day today, and it looked like it was going to be an absolute monster of a day as we started off 4-0 with Kansas State getting an easy win and cover there. Pretty much never in doubt. So that was a nice one. Iowa covering on that one, and the ending to that game was hilarious. I don't know if you saw that game, but we have a very loud truck outside after midnight, so that's always awesome in a residential neighborhood. I just constantly complain about it. At least it's not somebody intentionally revving an engine this time. But Iowa, dude, they were winning the game 13-10 in the fourth quarter. So it's like, you obviously know Iowa was the right side. It was a ridiculously low-scoring game. It played out the way I thought it would. Iowa just slowing the game way down, fell right into their hands. They probably could have and should have won the game. I was tied 13-13 with, I think, about a minute left in the game, and Indiana finally got a touchdown. They had one other touchdown in the game, but they got a touchdown to take a 20-13 lead, and then Iowa had one more shot at it, and I believe they turned it over on downs, and I believe their quarterback was out of the game at that point, so I think Gronowski was hurt or something because some other quarterback was in there. I don't know what Iowa was doing. Maybe Gronowski was hurt, but they just threw a bunch of incomplete passes, turned the ball over on downs. So, I mean, at that point, it's like, please just end the game, man. But Iowa had all 3 timeouts left. So it's like, well, what's Indiana going to do? Because there were like 20 seconds left. Indiana took over, I believe, at their own 40. So they're like not that far away from field goal range. And they're up 7 at that point. I'm like, please just end the game, man. Like, one first down and the game is over. But Iowa did something. And people were saying that the game was rigged, but I don't really think so, man, because, I mean, yeah, the line was 7 really early on. And to be honest, I think anybody that laid 7 with Indiana, I think they deserve to lose. Like, that game, it was all Iowa covering the spread in that game. Like, the only time where they were not within 7 was literally the final score, and that was it. So if you had, Indiana -7, I still think you deserve to lose. It was going to push. But then Indiana, I don't think this was rigged. Like, because Vegas, they wanted Iowa to cover the spread. Well, yeah, but most of the bets came in after it was already probably up to like 7.5. Like, it wasn't 7 for really that long a period of time. I think it was up to 7.5. It was all the way up to like 9, I think, maybe even 9.5 when the game kicked off. I gave it out at 8.5, so we didn't even get the best number on it, although not much of a difference between 8.5 and 9.5. But Iowa, I actually think they did like a Bill Belichick, basically. They did like something that actually makes sense if you want to win the game. They took an intentional safety by having their quarterback run backwards, so it wasted tons and tons of time, right? He just takes a snap, run backwards. The defense is not going to catch up to you. Run all the way back through the end zone, take the safety, and that takes so much time off the clock that by the time you free kick it back to Iowa, they're not going to be able to do anything. The game's going to be over on that kick attempt. So I actually think it made sense to do that, and just you don't even have to face Iowa's defense, which is the strongest unit. So hilariously, it wound up a 5-point win for Iowa, or 5-point win for Indiana, excuse me. So all of the Iowa backers covered. Yeah, I'm happy about that. Just take a lesson, man. Take a lesson from me. Iowa was obviously the right side. Oklahoma State covered as well. It got a little bit questionable near the end. Oklahoma State was still within like 11 points in the fourth quarter, though, so it was like they definitely should have had it in hand, but they gave up another 10-point, or no, I think they gave up just one more touchdown, so they were down 18. It was getting a little bit dicey at the end, and Baylor actually got into field goal range, but lucky for us, Baylor decided they were going to try to get as many first downs as possible and run out the clock, and that is what they did. So they never gave the ball back, never kicked a field goal. They just ended the game with the 18-point win, so we got that one as well. We got the first baseball game that was up was pretty easy as well. Pittsburgh, Atlanta, first 5 under. It was a 1-1 game at the end of 5, so that was easy as well. The full game also went under. Then we wound up losing the last 2, and I will tell you, Florida Atlantic, that was nowhere close to what the final score looked like. They lost by like almost 30 points on the final score. But if you saw what happened in that game, no. Florida Atlantic was covering that game almost the entire time. They were losing by, I think, 1 point at halftime. I think it was 17-16. So a first half bet would have covered. But I don't really do halves in football. I just go full game. Pretty much just all sides. But Florida Atlantic was still in that game. They were still covering into the fourth quarter. They were covering with like 9 minutes left in the game. They'd covered wire to wire up to that point. They were still, I think they were down by, what was it? I think they were down 5 in the fourth quarter, like pretty late in the game. They were down 5, and then they gave up 2 scores, 10 points, and then all of a sudden they were down 15. So they're still 1 point away, and it looked like the game was going to potentially end. Either they lose by 15 or they're going to score and backdoor basically the cover after they were covering the whole game anyway, and they shouldn't have needed to backdoor. And what did? They turned it over on downs. Memphis scored another touchdown because FAU, I think, turned it over on downs in their own territory. I think they might have let Memphis score. I wasn't even watching it, but Memphis scored another touchdown almost immediately. Then Florida Atlantic got the ball back one more time, and at that point, they're now down 22. So you're thinking, well, the only way they can push this now is if they get a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, which they might try for because they're down 15 at that point if they get another touchdown. But this is all happening with like in the final 3 minutes of the game. And then what happened? Florida Atlantic, I believe they fumbled the kick return over. So they fumbled in their own end, and then Memphis scored another touchdown right after that. So that's why the final score looked like that. I still think Florida Atlantic was the right side in that one. That was just ridiculous the way that game ended. I mean, they were within 6 with like 9 minutes to go in that game. And then we did lose on the A's, which was really the only legitimate-ish loser. But I know Kansas City scored a run early on an error and like a ground out or something or whatever it was. Or yeah, I don't know. They had some sort of force out, I think, where they got a run home after the runner reached on an error. So it was an unearned run. And then, yeah, Kansas City did score 2 more runs in the top of the 5th, I think. So we did lose that one 3-1, I think. Ari, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. I'm doing about the same, man. I mean, we've been winning on the show. Like, I've had all wins for the past, like, week. I don't think I've had any losing days in the past week. I think I skipped one of the days I skipped completely. I think it was Monday. But everything else was like, yeah, I think we've had wins going all the way back through last Sunday. Nate, what's up, man? Marshall and Lamar, 2 of the best teams to talk about when you're in Boston. I don't know what happened as far as those games. I wasn't paying any attention to those games. I don't pay attention to FCS either. Tower Gang NPC, what's up, man? You took BYU live at plus 210. I don't know if I like that. I have the game on right now. My only lean in that game was to Colorado plus the 6.5 points or whatever. I don't know if it got to 7 or not, but I had a slight lean that way. I'm kind of pissed because some of my other leans did wind up getting there, and of course we did lose. We lost, one of my actual plays for it, Atlantic, but it should have won. And then some of my stronger leans did get there. Some didn't, though. So, I don't know. I think Tulane did, and San Jose State, which was kind of near the top of my list. I believe that was a winner. So, that was Saab. I think it was in the chat last night, had that one. So, I think he probably did okay with those. He was on Oklahoma State with me as well. I forget what else he had, but I think he had some decent plays there. let's get into the NFL, man. This is the NFL. I'm going to give you 4 plays because I probably can't, I just can't help myself. We're going to break down the whole card like we do. We already had the Thursday night game, obviously, and I actually gave out the correct lean on that one, too, with Seattle. Let's get into it, man. If I'm looking weird, I know this orange shirt makes it look like I'm not wearing a shirt, so hey, ladies. But my back kills, dude. Like, I was sitting on my couch, I got up, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is happening to my back. It's like, you get old, man, your body just starts to, like, fall apart completely. I don't know what to tell you. Let's go to the breakdown as my back is breaking down. I don't want to take too long with this. The college football show is always like 2 hours. This will probably be about an hour and a half. I hope I can do it in less time than that, but let's get into it, man. First game up is Vikings-Steelers, and it's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern because we have this bullshit NFL Europe shit happening again, and this is not a London game this time. This is in Dublin, Ireland. Shit is just so ridiculous, man. Aaron Rodgers said that he is looking forward to consuming Guinness. If you saw that interview with him, I think he was just kind of messing around. I don't know if he's really going to put that into his body. I mean, maybe he will. Who knows? Because he's that, he's the dude who goes on the ayahuasca trips and likes to be healthy, but whatever. Vikings have flipped from a 1-point dog to a 2.5-point favorite, which I'm kind of wondering what propelled that move because you got to think, well, I should actually look at the look-aheads right now. Hang on. I got to grab the look-aheads real quick. I have not even looked at the look-aheads this week. So let me pull them up real quick. I'm going to pull them up if I can find them here. Let me see. This website 4 for 4. Is this what I want? I just want to see what the look-ahead lines are, man. I usually find it on, I think it's on like CBS or something. Yeah, here it is. I found it. Okay, I'm just going to grab these numbers real quick. I apologize. I did not have these ready to go. And of course, they're telling me to get rid of my ad blocker, even though I do anyway. So, CBS, fuck you, man. Oh, you guys don't see this. I don't think I have it in a different tab, but whatever. Let me get this up hold on. I usually like to copy and paste it because I don't like how they show the view. So actually, you won't see it because I'm just going to throw it in a notepad. But I'm going to look at this right now. So the look ahead on this one was Steelers minus 1.5. It looks like it's hard to tell with this view. Like, oh yeah, it's Steelers 1.5 because it's over to the right side. Yeah, so Steelers are a 1.5-point favorite. So basically, this was the look ahead. Vikings +1. The only reason I could see that the Vikings would be a minus 2.5-point favorite is because of the quarterback uncertainty, and now that the Vikings have announced that I think we already knew that J.J. McCarthy was not going to play in this game. He's still hurt, so it is going to be Carson Wentz again. And I think Wentz is getting that much respect in the market just because he played well last week. So I think that the market is actually favoring the Vikings more with Carson Wentz in there than with J.J. McCarthy. So I think that's what propelled that line move. It was not actually the market activity, as we see 52% of tickets on the Vikings, 54% of the cash coming in on the Steelers. So the money's coming in on the Steelers with the Vikings at 2.5. This gets even more interesting because this is Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers against the Vikings, and it's in Europe. And if you remember last year, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets played against the Vikings in London around the same time of the season. It might have been in the same week. And if you remember, I had the Jets because for whatever reason, I think it was a bad spot for the Vikings, and the Jets had a chance to get in that number at the end, and Aaron Rodgers threw a very crucial interception late in that game. I think he threw multiple in the game, and it just screwed me. So it's just interesting that Aaron Rodgers has a chance to kind of get revenge playing against the same team in Europe again, although this is going to be in a different stadium this time, in a different city as well. But it's like, is that going to matter for Aaron Rodgers? Is that going to be a big motivator to beat the Vikings after he lost in a very similar scenario to them last year? Maybe. It does mean that Aaron Rodgers is also used to the Europe trip, but the Vikings are more used to it because the Vikings did it last year. So that is an advantage that the Vikings have, is that they did make a Europe trip last year, and I don't believe that the Steelers did. I could be wrong about that. Let me just make sure of that. Let me look at their schedule real quick. I probably should have done this beforehand. These Europe games they totally fucked me up, man. I don't know when it would have been. It could have been against the Giants here if it was one, because it was before a bye. Usually they get a bye after that happens if they do go to Europe. Let me see. Nope, that was in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I'm going to guess that they did not play in Europe. So the Vikings probably actually have a little bit of an advantage there. But I do actually lean to the Steelers in this game, just because the Vikings looked too good last week, and it's really just as simple as that. The Vikings were in that game against Cincinnati, against Browning. So both teams had backup quarterbacks there. I think the public really was thinking that Cincinnati was going to play better in that game because Browning looked good against the Jaguars, but I don't think he's actually that good. And that Vikings defense just absolutely annihilated Cincinnati in that game. But I think it does mean you're going to get value now fading the Vikings because a 48-10 win just looks absolutely ridiculous. But if you dive into the box score here, it wasn't as crazy as it looked on the scoreboard. I mean, yeah, the Vikings definitely outgained them. They outgained them by almost 200 yards. That's true, but it was worse on the scoreboard because Cincinnati also had 5 turnovers in the game, so they were -5 in turnovers. I don't think the Vikings are going to play as well again in this one. However, Pittsburgh did also benefit last week from a lot of turnovers. They played New England. New England actually outgained them in this game. I thought New England was actually going to be the right side in this game. New England actually outgained them by 166 yards in that game. New England was -4 in turnovers, and they themselves had 5 turnovers, and they actually outplayed Pittsburgh in the game. So both of these teams coming into this game actually benefited from a huge turnover edge last week. So this is difficult to handicap, man. It really is. Don't know how the teams are going to really react going out to Dublin. So I have to pass on the game. The money is saying the Steelers. I'm going to slightly lean that way just because the Vikings looked too impressive last week, in my opinion. I think they're going to be getting too much of the edge here. And the other thing about this handicap is it's the second game of the injured player theory. So I talk about the injured player theory. That was the spot the Vikings were in last week. When the starting quarterback goes down, the first game, the team will realize they really might have to step it up with that backup quarterback in there. So they step up their game. They might play a lot better in that game. Sometimes you get value on that team, although I know the Cincinnati was also in an injured player spot there. But the Vikings, I did like the Vikings in that game. They wound up being the correct side easily. But the Vikings are in that second spot now, so Carson Wentz could take a little bit of a step back this time. I know he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing, but I still don't think he's really that good necessarily. Like, the Vikings looked better than they actually are. And one thing with the NFL is when a team has their best possible game, no team is as good as they look when they have their best possible game, or as bad as they look when they have their worst possible game. So the Vikings are kind of broaching that territory a little bit there, being in a spot where last week was kind of the best possible game they could have had. So I do think there might be a little bit of value on the Steelers there, but it's a difficult handicap, so that won't be a play for me. Eagles at Buccaneers. This is an interesting one, man. Both of these teams, I believe, they're both 3-0, right? But one issue that I do have with the Buccaneers is that I think they're kind of a counterfeit 3-0, man. They're the first team in NFL history to be trailing in the final 2 minutes of all 3 of their first 3 games and win all of them. So Tampa Bay, they kind of got lucky in a couple of these games, and they actually got outgained in the first week by Atlanta. And I know the first 2 games are on the road, so you can kind of take that for what it's worth, I guess. The fact they were not easy games playing on the road, but Atlanta outgained them in the game. Atlanta had the lead late in the game. Atlanta could have retied it at the end too, but Younghoe Koo couldn't make a makeable field goal there, and then they cut him from the team after that. Then Tampa was losing in the late minutes against Houston as well, and had to put together a final touchdown drive to win the game, and they did against Houston's defense. Kind of ridiculous. Then Tampa Bay did outplay the Jets last week. I will give you that. I was on the Jets last week, as you know, on the show. We did get the win on the Jets. The Jets made a nice comeback, actually took the lead late in the game, only to lose at the very end of the game. So Tampa was able to get it done again, trailing in the final couple minutes of the game. But Tampa did outplay the Jets. They outgained the Jets in the game pretty significantly. They won the turnover battle, too, so it is kind of ridiculous that the game was as close as it was, but I'll just take the win that we got on the Jets covering the spread. I think it was the one that I handicapped the least correctly out of the 3 wins, though. But that does mean Tampa is coming off a scare, though. Part of my handicap against the Jets there is that Tampa would be looking ahead to this Philly game, and that they were going to be in a bad spot against the Jets because they were coming off a Monday night game, so they had a short turnaround time there. It was their home opener, though. So, I don't know. Maybe I should have kind of relaxed on the Jets, but we got the win nonetheless. Now, Tampa, they are coming off that game where they had a scare as a big favorite, and they're staying at home now. So there are some advantages for Tampa there. When you come off a scare, sometimes that refocuses you and you focus a lot more on the next game. So this is a difficult handicap again because I don't think Tampa's as good as they look. But I'm not sure that Philly is as good as they look either as a 3-0 team. I mean, they beat Dallas, and we see Dallas. I mean, their defense just looks pathetic. And Dallas, I did give out Dallas as a play in that game, and Dallas did cover for us. The lightning delay kind of threw off the entire rhythm of the game, though, so I don't really know. I still think Dallas might have been able to hang in that game, but we don't really know what would have happened. Then Philly was able to get the job done at Kansas City, which I was pretty surprised by. But I think Kansas City had like a late turnover in that game that kind of swung things, if I remember correctly. And then we saw what happened last week. Philadelphia was losing to the Rams at home 26-7 in the second half, and then they wound up winning the game, and the Rams were attempting a field goal to try to retake the lead and win the game at the end, and we saw Philadelphia block it and return it for a touchdown. It was one of the worst. It's probably going to wind up being the worst beat of the entire season in the NFL, regardless of what happens from now on in the NFL. I think that'll wind up being the worst beat of the season. It was terrible. And I had the Rams in my NFL pick 5. It was the first one that I left off my actual card as a pick. It should have been a winner. The Rams +4 or whatever it was. Absolutely ridiculous. It was a wire-to-wire cover. They were winning almost the entire game. But in a way, that also means Philly kind of escaped that game, although it was a big game for them, too. Now they have to go down to Tampa Bay. It's a tough handicap again, man, because both teams, you could argue, are kind of coming off games where they kind of escaped. The Buccaneers was probably more of an escape, really, though, because it was against a worse team than the Rams. The Rams are a good team, so I think the Eagles probably kind of expected the Rams to put up a fight there. I think both of these teams are a little bit overrated. The Eagles are actually the favorite on the road, so this is what the odds makers think of the Buccaneers here. The Eagles are up from 2.5 to 3.5 on the road. You might be able to find a 3 out there if you want to lay less of a price on the Eagles. 52% of tickets, 54% of the cash on the Eagles right now, so the cash does seem to be coming in on the Eagles side a little bit. I struggle trying to figure this one out, man. I really do. I mean, my tendency is to want to just jump in and grab the home underdog here, but man, it is really difficult, man. I think I would probably still lean that way because the Buccaneers are not traveling. I think they realized they got lucky and kind of escaped against a bad Jet team, against a backup quarterback, which, remember, that was part of the handicap, too. The injured player theory is going on for the Jets there with the backup quarterback. So I thought that the Buccaneers might take them a little bit more lightly because of that. Although Tyrod Taylor, I mean, he's not a bad backup. That was part of the handicap as well. But the Eagles, they were in a dogfight against the Rams, man, and the Rams are a good team. So I think the Eagles aren't really coming off an escape, really. I think they're coming off a tough game against a good team. So I think I would slightly lean to taking the points with Tampa in this game. But I still think Tampa's very fraudulent. I think the Eagles are the better of the two teams, although, again, I think both teams are overrated. I'm just repeating myself now, but yeah. The largest spread of the season so far, I think, is Saints-Bills. I mean, you have the worst team in the NFL pretty much with the Saints up against one of the top teams in the NFL, the Bills. The Bills are down from 16 to 15.5 here. 88% of tickets, 90% of the cash on the Bills. The public looking at this and only wants to lay the price of the Bills. I probably wouldn't do it. I mean, I'd probably lean to taking the points with New Orleans, but that's kind of like a default reaction that I have as an old school NFL guy, because like usually like when you saw a double-digit spread, it was just automatic. Like the double-digit underdog is more likely to cover, but that's not really the case now with the NFL being more offense-oriented. So it is possible that Buffalo is going to cover this. I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a mismatch for sure. So, like, you see a lot of these double-digit favorites covering now in the NFL, so it remains to be seen. I know we had one so far. We actually basically had two this week. We had one, I think, so far, which was the Ravens against Cleveland, and the Ravens wound up blowing Cleveland out. But that game, Cleveland was actually within 10 points late in that game, so it wasn't really what it looked like on the scoreboard. And this game, New Orleans is going to have to try to slow the game down, and they kind of have this weird, like, short passing attack offense with Spencer Rattler there. They kind of play a possession game where they try to slow down the game by having a lot of short passes, basically, and running the ball a little bit. So that's what they're going to try to do here. So if they're able to do that and keep Buffalo's offense off the field enough, they might be able to come within this number. I know Buffalo's way too public. There's no way I'm going to be laying the points with the Bills. I would still probably lean to taking the points with the Saints, but yeah, there's no way I'm touching that game. That game is just ridiculous. As far as the situation, the Bills have extra time off because they played on Thursday, but it was a divisional matchup. And having extra time off isn't necessarily helpful when you're on a roll like this and you've won all 3 of your games so far. You just won a divisional game. You looked good in front of a primetime audience. So you don't really want to have that extra time off in a situation like that. I don't think it's that helpful. They might look past New Orleans because they do have New England up next, and New England is in second place in the AFC East, even though they're at 1-2. So, I mean, it is a kind of a divisional sandwich-ish here, if you even want to call it that. I don't know, but that's the spot for the Bills there. The Saints, of course, are 0-3. And by the way, 3-0 versus 0-3 is kind of another angle that you can sometimes look for in the NFL. If you have that, the 0-3 team covers more often than the 3-0 team does. So it's kind of like, I say the same thing with 1-0 versus 0-1, 2-0 versus 0-2. Same thing applies for 3-0 versus 0-3. It's just a rare scenario. And New Orleans, we saw them hang in their first 2 games. I know they were both at home, though, against Arizona and San Francisco. And then they got blown out against Seattle last week. So they are coming off a very embarrassing 31-point loss. So they look really, really bad coming into this game. So I think the value is probably going to be on the New Orleans side just because they looked so bad last week. But as far as this game is concerned, it wasn't really that crazy, man. I mean, they only got outgained by Seattle by, what is that, less than 40 yards, like 36 yards. So they really did not, or no, wait, what am I doing? Yeah. So they really didn't get outgained by that much in the game, man. First downs were almost even. Turnovers were even. New Orleans had more time of possession. So how did they lose this game by 31 points? I have absolutely no clue. I didn't watch the game. I had Seattle and Survivor, but and I picked New Orleans in my pick'ems, where you have to pick every team, I think, to cover the spread, right? This was one of the straight-up entries. That's why you see Seattle there. But I think I picked New Orleans against the spread. Yeah, I don't know what happened in this game. I mean, I guess I could look at the scoring real quick, but the final result was misleading. We had a punt return touchdown from Seattle in the game. That was part of the reason why. What else did we have here? Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it was just some weird field position shit in the game or something. I don't really know. Because that game should have been a lot closer. So, yeah, I will lean to New Orleans plus the points in that game. But, man, that is disgusting and ugly. Don't want anything to do with the game at all. I mean, my plays are going to be disgusting, too. So, Panthers-Patriots will be one of my plays, so I'm skipping it for now. Redskins-Falcons, also one of my plays, so I will skip it for now. Yeah, I know you guys are going to love plays in those 2 games, right? Great games on tap here. Browns at the Lions. The Lions are a 10-point favorite in this one. Very public. 93% of tickets, 92% of the cash. The public is all on the Lion train now, man. And it's a low total, down from 47 to 44. So we know this Browns defense is still a good unit, man. A good unit. It's some good dick. Myles Garrett probably got a huge schlong. But the Browns defense is good, man. It's just their offense is pretty putrid. Even with Joe Flacco being a veteran there. But the Browns defense has kept them within some games, man. And they got us a win outright last week. As you remember, they were able to beat the Packers. But the Packers were in a bad spot. As far as the total is concerned, the low total, even though the money's coming in on the over now, 64% of tickets, 83% of the cash on the over. When you see a big spread like this and low total, man, a lot of times you do want to look towards the underdog when the total is low. And again, the Browns, they play good enough defense that they might actually be able to stay in this game somewhat, because I don't think it's a very good spot for Detroit. I don't think it's a good spot for either team, but we just saw Detroit come off 3 really big games in a row. They opened the season against Green Bay, big divisional game. I know they lost. They bounced back with a huge offensive performance against Chicago, and I think Dan Campbell wanted to make a statement in that game because everybody was talking about how Detroit's offense can't do anything without Ben Johnson. And even I said they might be taking a step back without him. Dan Campbell basically said, fuck you, against Ben Johnson as well, against the Chicago Bears, where Ben Johnson is now their head coach. Dan Campbell ran up the score in that game against Chicago to make a statement. And then what did they do last week? I gave out this as a lean on the show on Monday. They turned around and they won at Baltimore, which is not easy to do. That was a big, big win for Detroit. So now they're coming off a huge primetime game against Baltimore, turning around and having to play this game on a short week. It's not a good spot, man. It would be even worse spot if Joe Burrow was healthy for Cincinnati, because they'd be looking at a playoff bound Cincinnati team probably coming up next too. So they'd probably look right past Cleveland, but it's still not a good spot. I still think it's a letdown spot for Detroit, but it may very well be a letdown spot for Cleveland too, because they put together a nice performance last week and got that big home win as an underdog against Green Bay. And now they're going out on the road. And it is a road out of conference game. I talk about how road out of conference games are the least important on your schedule, but I think that is the case more when a team is like favored and they're going to overlook that team. I think if the team is the underdog, they have more of a tendency to show up in a game like that if the road team is the underdog. So I would lean to Cleveland in this game just because I would not want to lay double digits with Detroit coming off that Ravens win. In a spot like this, double digits against this Cleveland defense, I don't want to do it. Cleveland's defense has been good basically in every game. They held Joe Burrow, Cincinnati, down to 17 points. I know Cincinnati does start out really slow, notoriously. Baltimore only had 20 points against Cleveland going into the fourth quarter of that game, so the defense was better than the final score made it look there. And then they held Green Bay way down as well to 10 points. So this defense is good. So maybe they can help the Browns hang in some games this year, man. That would be the way I would lean. Browns plus the points. Titans, Texans, this is ridiculous. Both these teams are 0-3, yet the Texans are a 7-point favorite, up from 6.5 to 7, and the total is down to 39.5. I mean, I know I always preach ridiculously low total. You want to look to take the points because the points are worth way more, and the money is definitely coming in on the under. 55% of tickets on the over, 60% of the cash on the under. Both defenses are pretty solid. However, this Titans offense has really shown basically nothing so far this season, man. With Cam Ward, it is not going well for them at all. So I think you got to trust the Texans offense more, even though they're very injured right now. They're probably not getting Mixon back. I don't know when some of these wide receivers there are coming back. I think they're missing a couple maybe of their linemen as well, offensive linemen. So the Texans are definitely depleted right now. But the Titans just aren't playing well, man. And you see 0-3 versus 0-3. No, I don't think any recreational bettor is really going to want to lay a 7-point spread with the Texans here. Although we do see 81% of the cash on them, 81% of tickets, 86% of the cash also on the Texans, and they have climbed up basically through that key number 7 there. I mean, I think I'm probably going to use the Texans in Survivor, man, because this is like, they have no future value at all. Like, this is the spot where they have to do it, even though it's dangerous in a divisional game with a really low total where you think it's probably going to be a somewhat close game. But Texans' defense is still really good, and they might be able to hold this Titans offense way down. I know the Titans kind of have like a slight advantage, I guess, just in the fact that people still don't really know what they're going to try to do with Cam Ward there, but it has not panned out, man. They've scored 12, 19, and 20 points so far. Not impressive so far. I mean, they haven't played on the road since week 1, where I know they did play decently in that game against Denver. Their defense did play well. But Houston is better than they look right now, man. I mean, Houston was the favorite to win this division, although I said I didn't think they would actually win the division. But Houston at 0-3, I mean, nobody expected them to be 0-3. They're better than that 0-3 record. Tennessee really probably isn't, although I know they played 3 teams that might all make the playoffs: Denver, the Rams, and Indianapolis. But Houston played the Rams as well, losing on the road slightly, whereas Tennessee did lose to them at home pretty badly. But then the public might kind of do that like transitive thing where they say, oh my God, like Tennessee couldn't even they got blown out by even more by the Rams at home. Houston hung with them on the road. But I mean, everybody knows the Texans are the better team anyway, so whatever. Texans did play Rams, Tampa Bay, and then Jacksonville, which was their easiest opponent so far. So the Texans are coming off a divisional game where they had chances to win that game. I think it was 10-10 late in the game. The Texans turned it over late in the game, which is what cost them the game, really. Tennessee's coming off a more embarrassing performance, even though it was a divisional game as well. But yeah, this is a difficult handicap again, man. I mean, you could argue that Houston's coming off the more difficult game, but I think both teams have to show up here because they're both 0-3. So you're 0-3, you're not really going to overlook anybody, right? So I think you got to kind of lean to the better team when both teams are 0-3 and both teams are trying to show up here. But laying 7 with a really low total like that is not something I would want to do. So got to stay away from that game too, man. Chargers Giants is going to be one of my best bets, so we'll hold that till the end. We're already into the 4 p.m. slate now, which we got Jaguars 49ers, Jags at San Francisco. San Francisco's up from 3 to 3.5 with 61% of tickets, 70% of the cash on the Niners. So the money's coming in on the Niners. I don't know if I see it, man. I really don't. I don't know, man. The 49ers, they're still without Brock Purdy, so it's going to be Mac Jones again. And he's been decent for them so far, but how good is he really? I mean, I'm not a Brock Purdy fan, but Mac Jones is so bad that he's an obvious drop-off. Like, if this was Brock Purdy playing, you'd see this line probably be at least a couple points higher. I know the Niners are 3-0. They escaped against Seattle when Seattle was driving late in the game and made a late mistake. Then first game without Brock Purdy, San Francisco did beat New Orleans. I believe Brock Purdy did not play in this game, right? Let me see. Yeah, it was Mac Jones. So this was the injured player theory game for San Francisco. So they won the injured player theory game. They did cover, but not by a lot against New Orleans. On the road, though, so last week was their first home game, and they barely got by Arizona. That was a game where Arizona had chances to win that game, too. But you might then argue that San Francisco is coming off a scare against Arizona. But the other argument would be that was a tough divisional battle against an Arizona team that was 2-0 at the time. And now they're facing an out-of-conference team. I think the one really valid concern with San Francisco here, though, is that they have the Rams next on Thursday night. So they have to turn around and play the Rams in like 4 days. So that is a pretty big-time look-ahead spot. So that is one major concern with San Francisco. That is a huge game against the Rams. Pretty much everybody is saying the Rams are the biggest threat to the 49ers in this division. I still think that is true. I think San Francisco has to worry about all these injuries they have mounting up too, man. They just lost Bosa, I think maybe for the season. I mean, they're losing a lot of players here, man. I don't know if Kittle is back. Obviously, I said Purdy is not back yet. I don't think Jones is that good. So I definitely worry about San Francisco here, man. And they have only won their games by 4, 5, and 1 point so far. So they're not covering by margin. They're not winning by margin in these games, man. Jacksonville's 2-1. I mean, Jacksonville, both of these teams could easily be like anything from 0-3 to 3-0, basically, because, well, actually not Jacksonville. Jacksonville definitely won that first game against Carolina. I mean, that was a fine win for them, but they could have easily won the game against Cincinnati, which they lost, and they could have easily lost to Houston. So these teams have both kind of been in games where they could have, like the results could have been different. And maybe San Francisco couldn't really have lost that game against New Orleans, so I guess you could maybe argue San Francisco could be 1-2 right now, and the Jaguars could be 3-0 right now. So I guess that's the better argument. Trevor Lawrence hasn't exactly been that great so far. This Jags offense hasn't put up more than 27 in any game yet, so they haven't really been that good. They do have to travel to the Pacific Coast, so that is a little bit of a concern for them. And they're coming off a tough divisional win, so are they going to totally get up for a game against the 49ers? Maybe they should, because San Francisco's 3-0. It is Mac Jones, and that actually is kind of it makes it a weird spot, too, because Mac Jones was on the Jaguars, I believe, even up through last year, right? So Mac Jones is now playing against his former team. Does that mean he's going to be motivated? I don't really think so, because it's like, yeah, I mean, Jacksonville let him go, but he sucks. So I don't know if he's really going to be that motivated to beat his former team. Maybe Jacksonville kind of knows his tendencies, but Jacksonville brought in a new coaching staff this year, or at least they brought in a new head coach, Liam Cohen, who was the offensive coordinator with Tampa prior to this. So I don't know, man. This is a difficult handicap for me too, man. The money's coming in at San Francisco. Going out to the West Coast makes it a little bit of a difficult spot for Jacksonville. I do think that look-ahead spot is pretty big for San Francisco, though, so maybe that's the deciding factor here. I might slightly lean to the Jaguars plus the points here. I just worry the 49ers, man. This offense, it really has not gotten going at all. So I'm worrying about how depleted the 49ers are, especially since I gave out the 49ers over their season win total. I said that I thought the 49ers would win the division. May be a concern there, man. They'll probably still go over their win total, I think, but it may be a concern, as far as winning the division is concerned. Colts, Rams, I can't help myself. I'm going to give out a play on that one too, so we'll wait until the end. Bears, Raiders. The Raiders are down from a 2.5-point favorite to a pick 'em here. I don't know what caused that line move. 60% of tickets and 65% of the cash on the Bears. So it looks like legitimate money is coming in on the Bears in this one, and I do not agree with that. The Bears, I mean, you know me. I don't think Caleb Williams is good. I don't trust Caleb Williams. They're having to go out to Vegas, which is one of those road out-of-conference games where I think in this case it is not a good spot for the Bears, the road out-of-conference game, because they just came off 2 divisional games. So they played Minnesota really close on that Monday night game and blew the game. They got blown out by Detroit, but then they bounced back. And I told you I liked the Bears last week. Actually playing against their former head coach, who seems to be awful as a defensive coordinator, Eberflush, who was the head coach of the Bears and was terrible there. He's the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys now, and that Dallas Cowboys defense is horrendous, especially the passing defense. It's not really because they traded Micah Parsons, man. Like, that Dallas defense is so bad. So even though Caleb Williams looked pretty good in that game against Dallas, Chicago lit them up. It was a good spot to fade Dallas. Dallas was coming off, I believe they were coming off a divisional game against the Giants, and Dallas had the Micah Parsons Bowl on Sunday night coming up this week against Green Bay. So it was basically a sandwich spot for Dallas. So I told you I liked the Bears in that game. But this Dallas defense is so bad that Russell Wilson, who basically should be in a casket at this point, put up 450-something yards against that Dallas defense. So is Caleb Williams really that good, or is Dallas's pass defense that bad? I think it's the latter. When Russell Wilson, I mean, you saw what Russell Wilson looked like in the other 2 games against Kansas City defense that is good, sure. And then against Washington. Washington is not a good defense at all. And Russell Wilson was terrible in both of those games. So I don't think it was Caleb Williams last week. I think it was the Dallas defense. I don't think Williams is that good. I think Chicago looked too good last week, even though, yeah, you get the first win, you get that monkey off your back. Chicago does have a big game next against Washington, even though we don't know. It's going to be after a bye, though, too. So at that point, they might have Jaden Daniels back, and that's a huge game. Jaden Daniels against Caleb Williams, and I believe it's going to be a rematch because I believe Washington won the battle last year, and that's the battle between the 2 quarterbacks of the draft class last year, Williams versus Daniels. I gave out Washington as a play last year on the show in that game, and we got a little bit lucky at the end of that with Washington winning the game with a Hail Mary, a touchdown at the end of that game, if you remember that. It was never in doubt, baby, never in doubt. But that's going to be a big game if Jaden Daniels is back by then, which he very well may be. So that might be a look ahead for Chicago there to the Daniels versus Williams Bowl there. So I like the Raiders in this spot, man. And the Raiders, they're just coming off another ugly performance, man. They just got thrashed by Washington last week, but they were coming off of playing a Monday night game against the Chargers, a Monday night divisional game where I liked the Raiders in that spot, and the Raiders just stalled out on offense way too much in that game, having to travel all the way to the East Coast and play Washington, who was in an injured player theory spot. So the Raiders probably didn't know exactly what to game plan against, although Washington kind of runs a similar game plan with Mariota in there because he's a similar quarterback to Jaden Daniels. He can run the ball and whatever, but Vegas looked awful last week. So you basically have Chicago looking awesome last week. You have Vegas looking terrible, but you can kind of explain it because Dallas was in a bad spot against Chicago. I think the Raiders were kind of in a bad spot against Washington. Washington was in a positive spot, and they had extra rest, remember, coming off Thursday night. Washington had extra time to prepare for that game and get Mariota ready again and whatever. And Mariota does know the system anyway and whatever. He already has been there for a while. He knows it. It was the injured player spot where Washington would step up their game. If you dive into the box score in this game, it was actually closer than the final score looked. Looking at the yardage here, Washington only outgained Vegas 400 to 354. So the game wasn't really as lopsided as it looked on the scoreboard as well. So I think the Raiders, at least offensively, they're better than they kind of appear to be so far. Like it's Pete Carroll now, man. It's Geno Smith there. It's going to be their second home game now. So I like the Raiders in that one. I don't know what's going on with the market, man, as far as what's going on there. I don't agree with that market move or that cash percentage there. I think the Raiders became close to being a play for me, to be honest. So I lean to the Raiders in that one. Mitch Trubisky and Mark Sanchez had career nights against bad Cowboys defenses. I barely even remember those games. I mean, that's a long time ago at this point. I remember the butt fumble for Mark Sanchez, which was on a Thanksgiving game against the Patriots, and I was a hater of the Patriots, but I also remember Mark Sanchez beating the Patriots in the playoffs in 2011 or whatever it was with Rex Ryan, hilarious coach. Which he was on Hard Knocks at one point when he was with the Jets too, which was one of the best seasons of Hard Knocks, was the one with the Jets with Rex Ryan. He's unbelievably funny, man. I loved that season of Hard Knocks. That one and the John Gruden Raiders one with Antonio Brown, like refusing to wear the regulation helmet. Those were both really good Hard Knocks seasons. Maybe the two best, because it all depends on who's in it, man, you know. The Dan Campbell Lions one was pretty good, too. That one was in recent memory. But, yeah, anyway, yeah, I like the Raiders in that one, man. But, oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Sanchez beating the Patriots in that one. That was a fun game, man. It was mostly the Jets' defense beat the Patriots in that one, but still. And then I believe, I don't even remember what, the Jets, I think they lost to Pittsburgh, I guess, that year, right? That was the year that Pittsburgh lost to Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl. Is that right? I think that was that year. Green Bay won the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, which I was also happy about because I like Aaron Rodgers. So there you go. Finishing off the 4 p.m. slate of games here, we have Ravens-Chiefs, which is probably the biggest game of the entire week, man. This is a huge game. Ravens-Chiefs. Whichever team loses this game is going to start the season 1-3. And if you had asked me before the season started, if you had said either the Ravens or the Chiefs are going to start the season 1-3, I would tell you it was going to be the Chiefs because I said I liked the Chiefs to go under their season win total. But you look at their schedule so far, they both had difficult schedules so far, man. I still think the Ravens are probably the best team in the NFL, but their defense has been pretty questionable. So that's kind of the problem here, man. This is basically a classic offense versus defense matchup here where the Ravens have the way better offense and the Chiefs have the way better defense here right now. So that's what we have going on in this game. The Ravens down from 3 to 2.5 here. 61% of tickets, only 51% of the cash. So the Ravens are public, down from 3 to 2.5, I should say. I think you probably still get the 3 on the Chiefs right now. And if you can't get it now, you'll probably be able to get it at some point tomorrow. I would lean to the Chiefs plus the points in this one, man. As insane as that might sound, there is a definite possibility that the Ravens, my pick to win the Super Bowl, that they're going to start 1-3. It is possible. I think they'll still make the playoffs, though. I actually think they're still going to win the division because, I mean, look at their competition in the division. Joe Burrow's going to be out for 3 months. Pittsburgh's not that good. Although it's actually hilarious that Pittsburgh, after this week, might be in first place in this division again, just like they were last year. It's like, how is Pittsburgh doing this, man? Mike Tomlin and obviously Cleveland. I mean, you can't think that they're really a threat here. So I still think Baltimore will win the division, but they've had a difficult schedule, man. They had to face Buffalo, Detroit, now Kansas City. And I thought they would at least win one of those 3 games. Probably. Well, I thought they would win the first week, which they should have. Baltimore was winning that game, as we know. They were winning 40-25 with 4 minutes left. There was a big revenge spot, too. Playoff revenge for Baltimore there. Playoffs. And Baltimore outplayed Buffalo in both games and still couldn't get it done in either game. Just ridiculous. Then they won against Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, kind of a whatever type of game. And then they did lose on Monday night at home against Detroit. Detroit had a good game plan for them, man. It wound up being offense versus offense for the most part in that game. And Detroit was able to get the job done in that game. But now that means Baltimore is coming off a tough Monday night game. They've had a tough stretch of games here, man. And they're having to go out to Arrowhead, where it seems like they typically just don't play well there for whatever reason. You've seen the Chiefs pretty much they get like the calls. They seem to have Baltimore's number. You remember the playoff game a couple of years ago where Baltimore just had a stupid game plan in the game. I don't know what they were doing in that game. And then Baltimore did lose, I believe, the opening week, maybe of that same season at the Ravens. So yeah, Baltimore at the Chiefs, So I don't know. It seems like they don't do well in Arrowhead for whatever reason. Yeah, it means Baltimore should be motivated coming in here, but they're on a short week, having to travel. Very hostile environment in Kansas City. It's going to be difficult, man, facing this Kansas City defense. You know Kansas City is going to be hungry. It's going to be Mahomes. Kansas City didn't have it very easy to start the season either. They had to play the Chargers and Philadelphia, and those teams are both 3-0. They're coming off a Sunday night game, so I know they have a somewhat short turnaround time too, but they have extra rest over what Baltimore has here. They're coming back home here. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to lean to the better defense, man. Better defense at home, getting points with an extra day of rest. Kansas City had an easy game last week against the Giants. I know everybody saw that, but I don't think the public was very impressed by Kansas City only beating the Giants 22-9. And Russell Wilson, everybody saw that game. Russell Wilson was just throwing the ball to nobody. Like, it made no sense what was going on in that game. He is so washed, dude. It's just so ridiculous that he looked like a god against Dallas's defense, and he's been horrific in the other two games. But, yeah, I like Kansas City to get it done with their defense in this one, man. And they still got Mahomes. I mean, I know it's Mahomes and nobody else, basically, but a good quarterback can get you pretty far in this league, man. You can kind of argue that Buffalo, is kind of that way too with Josh Allen. But Mahomes is still there. Hopefully Mahomes can get something done here for my fantasy purposes because he is my fantasy quarterback in my main league. But yeah, I'm going to lean to the Chiefs plus the points there. Sunday night, Packers-Cowboys in the Micah Parsons Bowl here. It looks like BYU does have the lead here in the fourth now, man. So, Nate, you might be able to get this one here on the BYU money line. You got it at a good price, man. Maybe BYU will win and not cover the pregame number there, so we'll both be right. But I don't have anything riding on this. I didn't use Colorado. I just said Colorado's my lean. I didn't use it as like a pick in any of my money pick'ems or anything like that. I think if ESPN has the game in the pick'em game, I did pick Colorado plus the points in that game, though. But that's just like small, whatever, like you just, with friends pretty much. Packers are up from 4.5 to 6.5 in the Micah Parsons Bowl on Sunday night. Packers, Cowboys. Money's coming in on the Packers, and it looks like it's going to get to 7 in this game, but the Packers are also extremely public. 89% of the tickets, 90% of the cash right now, but I think the cash, once it hits 7, I think you might see money start coming in on the Cowboys, because I think in some cases, I think this might be a setup, actually, man, because the professional bettors, what they might be doing is they might be coming in at the lower limits, knowing that when the public comes in and plays this game, they're going to be only coming in on the Packers side here because the Cowboys just look so bad. So it might be a little bit of a setup where the professionals just want this to get to 7 so they can actually come in and hammer the 7. And you'll know if that's the case if it gets to 7 and it really starts dropping. But I say if you like the Cowboys, you can just wait on this until you see the 7. I think you will see the 7 at some point come up. I don't know if it will get to 7.5, but I think it is going to get to the 7 because the juice is loose. The juice is coming. OJ's not playing in this game. He's dead, but the juice is loose as far as on the 6.5 there. I also do lean to the Cowboys in this game, as ridiculous as that sounds. My contrarianism coming into play, especially in these primetime anti-public home underdogs used to be like the absolute bread and butter, man. They used to cover it like a ridiculous rate, but the odds makers know that now, so you don't get as good of a number on that home underdog now. But in this case, getting a touchdown seems pretty solid with the Cowboys, man. Totals down from 49 to 46.5 with 83% of the tickets on the over, only 62% of the cash on the over. So the money's coming in on the under, kind of signaling that it's not going to be that high scoring of a game. Packers have the better defense, and the Cowboys probably have the better offense of the two, which I know sounds ridiculous because the Cowboys kind of suck. The Cowboys but they mostly suck on defense. That's where their suckage is. They did lose CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be out for about 3 weeks with whatever happened. It looked pretty bad, some like leg injury or whatever it was. And then I don't know why, they forced him to come back into the game, which kind of affected something in that game. Although the Cowboys were going to lose the game anyway, but I don't know. It was a little bit of a weird thing where they put him back out there, even though they knew that he couldn't even walk on that leg. I don't know what that was, where they put him out there for one play, and it kind of affected, I think, what the Cowboys were able to do in that game. I forget exactly what it was. I saw something on Twitter about it. It was weird. But the Cowboys are coming off that ugly loss, man, to the Bears. I don't really think that losing Lamb is going to affect the line that much. I mean, they still have other weapons on this offense, man. They did get Pickens over the offseason. They got some other wide receivers that have some experience that are pretty good. Prescott's still leading them. I mean, their rushing attack has actually been able to do some things. They have Javonte Williams there now from Denver. So Cowboys' offense is okay. Their defense is just terrible. But you're asking for the Packers, the team with the better defense, to lay a ton of points on the road. I'm not so sure about that. Of course, we do know the Packers are coming off a loss themselves. You could argue they're in a bounce-back spot here because they're coming off that loss to the Cleveland Browns, where we know I gave out Cleveland on the show, obviously, for a reason. I thought it was a bad spot for the Packers. Thought it was a sandwich spot. They were coming off that big primetime win off of two big wins off of Detroit and Washington. Having extra time off, I didn't think helped them in that case. And I think they were looking ahead to this game with Dallas, man. So Green Bay, yeah, they're, I guess, arguably in a bounce-back spot because they did lose to Cleveland. But it is a second straight road game, and Dallas is probably in the bigger bounce-back spot because they looked so bad against Chicago there. So I think Dallas is going to show up here. They were at least 1-0 at home so far. They beat the Giants, who almost losing to them. And I know Russell Wilson looked awesome in that game against them. So Jordan Love should do well in this game against the Dallas defense. But even so, I'm going to still lean to Dallas. And I think the Micah Parsons thing is going to come into play too, where everybody's just talked about that trade being like, oh my God, Dallas gave up their best defensive player. So Green Bay won that trade like big time. But I'm not sure if they necessarily did. I know Dallas could use a good pass rusher like him right now, but Micah Parsons is a little bit past his prime. I know he's out there making an impact with Green Bay a little bit there, but I think his back is still messed up. He's got to get like epidurals before every game or whatever to get out there, play through the pain. And Dallas did get like a defensive tackle from Green Bay that is pretty solid, so they can at least kind of stifle the run. And Green Bay is still also a team that's going to try to run the ball at you. They do that a lot on offense as well, so Green Bay kind of that style of offense where they don't light you up offensively. So again, could be a low-scoring game for that reason too, because Green Bay does actually want to kind of play more physical, run the ball a bit more, balanced attack, and play defense. So that is kind of what they want to do. So yeah, I think people are overvaluing the Parsons thing. I think the Parsons thing is not going to really impact the line at all. So I would lean to the Cowboys in that one. Not going to be a play. And then we have two Monday night games, which I hate this, dude. The NFL, why are they changing all this shit, man? You got more and more Europe games, Brazil games now, and now you have Monday night doubleheaders happening all the time. And it's not even a doubleheader. There are going to be more this year than any other year. And it's not even a doubleheader, really. It's two games that are competing with each other. And guess which game people are going to watch, man? Jets versus Miami or Bengals against Denver? I wonder which one of those games people are going to watch. Although Cincinnati doesn't have Joe Burrow, so even that game is ass. Now, so this is a great Monday night game, man. This is a great Monday night lineup here. Jets at Miami. I mean, this is ridiculous. Both teams are 0-3. One of these teams is going to start 0-4. I kind of like Miami in this one, man. Miami, I think just because they have more time off here, I know they've looked terrible so far. Their defense is not good. Yeah, the Jets probably have the better defense, but the Jets' defense hasn't looked very good so far either, man. Miami, McDaniel's still fighting for his job because I don't think he's been fired yet because they did at least cover at Buffalo last week on Thursday, but that does mean at least Miami does have extra time off. So starting 0-3 and having extra time off, that can actually help you a little bit, even though I know they played close-ish against Buffalo there. I think having that extra time off is a good thing. So I think Miami will be able to use that extra time off to prepare for this game, prepare something here. As far as the weather is concerned, it will be a night game, but it's going to be hot, 84 degrees. So the Dolphins, I don't know if they could sweat the Jets, because the Jets are not a hot weather team, really. The Jets coming off a close game against Tampa Bay, man. So I know people are going to look and see both teams lost to Buffalo. I don't think they're going to really take that much away from that as far as the public is concerned. I mean, it looks probably worse for the Jets in that case because the Jets lost at home. But remember, Justin Fields went out of that game with a concussion. So I lost with the Jets on that game. I've given out the Jets as a play all 3 weeks so far. And those plays have gone 2-1, so I'll take it. But the Jets are coming off kind of a heartbreaking loss, man. They had the win. They made a huge comeback against Tampa, put in a huge effort there on Sunday and almost won. So I think that puts the Jets in a worse spot, although they are getting to stay in Florida. So I don't know if the Jets came back home or if they just stayed in Florida. It would be better for them if they just stayed in Florida. So that's the one maybe advantage they have is that they're staying in Florida. But, of course, Miami's the home team here. So Miami used to returning back to Florida, obviously. But the Jets may have less of a travel concern if they stayed in Florida because they're just going to be traveling within the state. But I like Miami just because they have the extra time off. The Jets are coming off that tougher game. And it looks like Justin Fields is going to play in this game. I think he cleared concussion protocol, or maybe he's still waiting on that. But I think he's practiced all week, and we have until Monday to figure that out. But I'm pretty sure Justin Fields is playing. It looks like he's definitely trending towards playing in this game. So if that's the case, I like Miami even more, actually, because the line might actually drop a little bit on Miami. So you might actually get a little bit more value on Miami once it's confirmed that that Justin Fields is going to play in this game. But I talk about this, it's the reverse injured player spot, right? Where when the team gets their starting quarterback back, sometimes the team will take their foot off the gas a little bit. They'll step back a little bit, even though I know an 0-3 team can't really do that. But it also could be kind of a chemistry issue because Justin Fields is still new to the Jets. So him coming back into the lineup, they got to get used to him being in there again. So that's kind of a problem too. The Jets have been okay with Tyrod Taylor in there. So I think if Fields comes back, it actually kind of throws another wrench into what the Jets are going to try to do here. They're going to have to try to regain their chemistry. So I do lean to Miami. They're up from 2.5 to 2.5 with juice here. 59% of tickets, 66% of the cash on them. If you want Miami, I don't know if you should wait, because if Fields is going to be if it's announced that he's going to play, you'll probably get a better number on Miami. But you want to make sure you don't have to lay 3 with Miami if you want Miami. You got to lay at least 2.5 or less. You could go money line with Miami if you want to do it that way. But just throwing out some ideas there. And then the second Monday night game, which was supposed to be a really good game, Bengals-Broncos. Now we don't have Joe Burrow here. We have Jake Browning, and he looked horrible last week. The Broncos looked pretty good in a loss, though, so I'm going to probably lean to Cincinnati in this game. And the Broncos, they played some tough games the last couple of weeks on the road. Indianapolis, kind of a heartbreaking loss where they lost on that weird leverage call, which I picked Indianapolis in the game, and I'm a Colts fan, so I'm just going to be like, I'll just accept that call there. But it probably was a kind of a bullshit call. Probably was not the right call, giving Indy the extra shot at the field goal and giving them 5 extra yards or whatever it is. Maybe it's more than that for leverage. I don't know. But then Denver last week, they had a huge game against the Chargers, man. That was a big divisional game, and Denver had the lead in that game and blew the lead close to the end of that game and lost the game. That is a brutal loss for Denver. And now they're coming home and they're facing this Jake Browning-led Cincinnati team, so they don't get to face Joe Burrow. Cincinnati, by the way, did lose late in the season, I believe. Did they lose? No, they won. I think they won in overtime, I guess. They had a late game, late last season against Denver when Cincinnati was trying to make the playoffs. I think Cincinnati won that game in overtime at Cincinnati. So actually, it's a little bit of revenge for Denver here if they care about that. But they want to get revenge against Joe Burrow, I think. So I think Denver might take this Browning offense very lightly after they looked so bad last week. Denver still might be hung over coming up that huge divisional game. And they do have the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles up next too. So it almost kind of looks like a sandwich spot here, man, which it probably would not be if it was a Joe Burrow game. I know it's a Monday night game at home, but if you're going to overlook an opponent, I think it's going to be something like this where Cincinnati doesn't have their starting quarterback, and they just got annihilated against Minnesota. But I showed you that part of the reason why they lost, I know they got clobbered on the stats too, but Minnesota completely outgained them. But Cincinnati, it was worse on the scoreboard than it actually was statistically because they had 5 turnovers in the game. So Cincinnati, they could definitely clean that type of thing up. I know going to Mile High is not that easy. It is a second straight road game for them, but I would lean to Cincinnati plus the points in this one. Broncos are very public, but it has gone through the key number. They're up from 6 to 7.5 now. 86% of tickets, 93% of the cash on the Broncos. We'll see how the market kind of plays out as far as when it gets closer to game time there on Monday night. But right now, I would take the points with the Bengals, and that one, as absurd as that sounds. I know all my stuff is absurd, man. Let's get to the best bets here. That was the breakdown segment. I got 4 plays here, and you're going to hate them all, man. First one up is going to be probably the worst one of them all. You knew I was going to do this. New York Giants plus 6.5, although I'd probably wait on this just to see if you can get a 7, because the Chargers are going to be really public in this game. So it's possible that you get the 7, and by waiting, you're not really losing anything. You'll still be able to get a 6.5, most likely at worst. or a 6 versus 6.5 is not that much of a difference. Chargers are the hype team right now, man. They're now 3-0. Everybody's talking about Chargers going to the Super Bowl. But I think this is a bad spot for the Chargers. 89% of tickets, 90% of the cash on them. They're having to go to the East Coast. I know I talk about East Coast early game. It doesn't matter as much as like an East Coast team having to go all the way out west and playing a late game where they're going to be fatigued at the end of the day. Like this game being at like 10 Eastern Pacific time isn't as bad because you get up, you wake up and you get ready for it. And you're kind of ready to go. But it's still not a good spot for the Chargers because it's one of those games, remember, they're coming off much bigger games. And this is a road out of conference game that really is not going to matter that much. So I think this is a bad spot for the Chargers completely. I mean, they started the season beating every single team in their division. So that gives them a huge leg up over their entire division, man. They already have, like, tiebreaker. They already have the tiebreaker against every team in their division right now. And they're 2 games ahead of every team in their division right now. So the Chargers already gave themselves padding, beating the Chiefs in Brazil. Then they had to go to Las Vegas on Monday night, beat the Ravens. Then they came back home and they had a huge game against Denver, and they overcame Denver late in the game. Now they got to travel to the East Coast for the first time this year. And they do have Washington up next, too. And that's a big game if Washington has Jaden Daniels back. That's going to be a bigger game, too. I do not think the Chargers are going to really pay that much attention to the Giants here. So I'll take the points with the Giants. Everybody just saw the Giants look really bad on Sunday night, and I know that means the Giants have a little bit less prep time here, but when a team looks really bad on prime time, especially offensively, and the public wants nothing to do with them, offensively, they are offensive. That's the time to go and jump on that team, man. And of course, we have a little bit of a potential spark here for the Giants too, which I really love. So I'm hoping I'm not factoring in my bias too much here. I don't think I am because I think it's a bad spot for the Chargers, man. But Jackson Dart is going to be making his first NFL start here, man. You know me. I'm on record saying that I think Dart was the best quarterback in the draft class this year. Cam Ward's not really looking that good so far, so let's see what Dart can do, man. He looked good in preseason. He understands the system. He's been studying the game. If you see him like on the sidelines, he's been like repeating the quarterback's cadence or whatever, listening to them on the headsets and whatever. Dart, I think he's going to show some things, man, and he adds another dimension to this offense that is going to be a little bit tougher to defend against, which Russell Wilson does not have, which is mobility, man. I mean, Russell Wilson, he had it earlier in his career. He definitely doesn't anymore at this age. Jackson Dart is going to be able to do things with his legs, man. So the Chargers are going to have to try to game plan for this, and the Chargers probably won't really know exactly what the Giants are even going to do. So I think that gives the Giants a little bit of an extra edge here. Because, I mean, how could their offense possibly be worse than it was with Russell Wilson out there? I mean, Wilson is just so bad. Like, there's no way this is a downgrade. You're getting some youth in there. You're getting some spark in there. I know the Giants did also lose Tracy, their running back, so they're going to go with Scattaboo. So it's white boy summertime. Late. I know summer just ended, but summer's not going to be over for a couple more weeks, man, because Scattaboo saw his shadow or whatever. Cam saw his Shadaboo. Whatever you want to say, man. I like him. I think Scattaboo adds some like weird wrinkles to the offense too. So I think the Chargers are not really going to know what to game plan for either. So I think that helps the Giants as well. The Chargers are a possession type of team, man, still, even though their offense has been a little bit better this year. I know they're letting Justin Herbert throw the ball more than they did last year because he was coming off an injury last year. So he is throwing the ball more this year. But still, this Chargers offense, it's still an offense that relies on maintaining possession. They don't really outscore opponents by that much. So as long as the Giants can put up some points here and stay within this game, I think they could do it, man. And the Giants' defense is still not that bad, especially their front seven. And we know the Chargers did just lose Najee Harris, but they're using what's their young running back's name? I always forget what his name is. I call him OD, and hopefully he's not going to OD, but it would be ridiculous if he did. I mean, then his nickname would really be an appropriate nickname. But they're going to use him. I mean, they're going to run the ball a lot. The Giants can actually stop the run. So that is a decent thing for the Giants as well. Total drop from 45.5 to 43.5. 60% of tickets, 82% of the cash on the over. But I think because the line dropped that significantly, I think that was Probably a real move, although I don't know. We do see money coming back in on the over at this point, but it's a pretty low total. So if it's a lower scoring game, taking the points matters even more. So we will go with the Giants. And the other thing about this game is it's a 3-0 team against an 0-3 team. And, I talked about that earlier in the show. Getting points with the 0-3 team against a 3-0 team in week 4 is a pretty good proposition. It hits at above the rate that you need to profit, at least, I'm pretty sure, historically. So we're going to go with it. Giants. I know, you know me with these ugly dogs, man. But you saw what I did last week. We had a 3-0 sweep last week with the Panthers, the Giants, and the Panthers, the Jets. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Panthers, Jets, and what was the other one that we had last week? It was something real. Oh, the Browns, of course. Yeah, it was real ugly. All right, next up, we're going to throw a favorite into the mix. New England minus 5.5. I know we're playing on a 1-win team. We're going to lay the points here. I like it, man. It looks like the money's kind of disagreeing with it right now. It was agreeing with it before, but I like it right now, man. Should I not give it out as a play? I don't know, because the market read just changed, but nah, fuck it. Let's go with it. Patriots are down from 5.5 to 5 here. 61% of tickets, 60% of the cash. They're a little bit public, which kind of surprises me because they have not looked good so far. They're trying to adapt to the new Vrabel system. And the problem with the Vrabel system, well, really with the Josh McDaniels system, is that it's very complex. So it takes a while to learn it. And I guess this Patriots offense might not be totally learning it. But if you see what the Patriots did last week, they're not traveling, by the way. They're staying at home. They lost last week, but if you see what happened in this game, which I believe I showed you earlier in the show, the Patriots outgained Pittsburgh 369 to 203, but they lost the turnover battle 5-1. So they were -4 in turnovers. They had way more yardage. They had way more first downs. They had the time of possession victory as well. So they pretty much won the game. They dominated the game statistically, and they lost because they turned the ball over constantly. So that is something that you can clean up, man. So I think that that's making the Patriots look a little bit worse than they actually are. So coming into this game, I think they are going to be stepping up here. They're going to try to fix some things and step up for this game. Another good thing for New England, if their offense isn't really moving along right now, is that they're facing a really bad Carolina defense here. I know Carolina's defense has not looked that bad so far, giving up 26, 27, and then 0 last week. But this is part of the handicap too, man. Carolina, in their only home game this year, I gave them out on the show last week. They beat Atlanta 30-0, and I told you Atlanta was in a terrible spot in that game because Atlanta had won that big game on Sunday night in the National College Championship rematch between Penix and J.J. McCarthy. And I know J.J. McCarthy got hurt in the game, but Penix got his revenge in that game. And then they had to go out on the road and face this Carolina team, which is not very good. Not a team that really is going to draw your focus. And Atlanta had a bigger game up this week against Washington. So I thought it was a really bad spot for Atlanta. Obviously, I did not expect a 30-0 win for the Panthers. But if you look at what happened in this game, Atlanta outgained the Panthers 332 to 224. They lost the turnover battle 3-1. So they were -2 in turnovers. But Atlanta had more than 100 more yards of offense than Carolina did. So this Carolina offense didn't even do anything in the game. They were actually really pretty pathetic in the game. So the final score was not indicative of what happened in that game really at all. It was really just kind of the turnovers just kind of threw the game off and whatever. So it's a very misleading final result. So Carolina looked way better than they actually are. They have to travel up to New England. And they do have, well, they don't have a big game up next. So they do have to travel to New England. It's a third road game in their first 4 weeks, which is also not really an easy spot to be in. It's just a lot of travel to have to deal with. And they're 0-2 on the road so far. And they've lost by at least 5 points in both road games. So we're going to go with New England in that one, man. That's probably my least favorite of these 4, though. I don't know. I don't know if I should continue to give it out, but we're going to do it. Next up, we're going to go, this line has moved a little bit, and I think it's because of the quarterback news. We're also going to go with Atlanta -1.5. You might not be able to get this number anymore either. It flipped from Atlanta +2.5 earlier in the week to the -1.5 here. 53% of tickets, 70% of the cash on the Falcons. So the money is coming in on the Falcons here. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to talk about the look-aheads, like what was the line before what happened last week, by the way. So I'll throw that out real quick. We had the Patriots were the same number, 5.5. Lions were the same number at 10. Chargers were only 5.5, so that line has moved. Bills are 14.5. So this is what the lines were on these games before last week's games were played. So you can see like what the overreactions were. Texans were 6.5, so that's basically the same. The Bills did move up a little bit. Like I said, Washington was minus 1.5 in this game, but I think that was because we didn't know who the quarterback was going to be for Washington yet. The Eagles are 2.5, which is about what they are. The Rams were 5, which is kind of interesting. Niners are 3. Ravens 2.5. A lot of these are just basically the same. Raiders are minus 1.5. Packers are only 4.5, so there was definitely a big adjustment on the Packers. Dolphins 2.5. Broncos 6.5. So those lines didn't move that much, but there was definitely an adjustment on the Packers, man. So I think you are getting live value on that one. That was the biggest move, just based off of last week's results. Just because Dallas, I guess, looked so bad, and I guess factoring CeeDee Lamb's injury, but CeeDee Lamb is not even worth a full point, though, on a line. So I think it was mostly just because they looked bad against the Bears. But anyway, back to Atlanta here. I know we didn't get the best number on this. Maybe I should have just talked about it in the middle of the week and said, get on this now. But the line moved, I think, from the Falcons plus 2.5 to minus 1.5 here because Washington, we didn't know who their quarterback was going to be, and it is going to be Marcus Mariota again, which is why the Falcons have now flipped to that favorite there. And I know Mariota, he was on the Falcons a couple of years ago, but I don't think that matters that much, man. I know he'll get to go back out there and play against his former team, and I don't think he got to play in the game last year against the Falcons, which, by the way, I had the Falcons in that game last year. Penix was in the game. It was late in the season. Falcons went to Washington. It was a bad spot for Washington. I had the Falcons plus, I think, 4.5. I gave it out. It was one of my bets on the show. And the Falcons sent the game into overtime. They were winning a lot of that game. It went into overtime, and they wound up losing and not covering, which was just brutal. But that does mean at least that it's a little bit of maybe an extra revenge motive here for Penix because he was in that game, and it was his best road game. He hasn't played that well on the road, but he has been better at home, although I think he did win on the road a couple weeks ago, right, at Minnesota, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but that's also a closed stadium, so maybe he just plays better in closed stadiums, but he played pretty well in that Washington game. This Washington defense is not that good, so the Falcons should be able to take advantage of it. I think the Falcons actually have the better defense here. I'm not sold on the Washington defense at all. The money is coming in on the Falcons, and I don't think it was just a money move, like I said on the line here, moving the line, but it's still kind of just in pick the winner territory. Obviously, getting points is better than laying them, but I think at 1.5, it's still fine. I mean, 1.5, 2, whatever. If you want to go money line on the Falcons, I think that's fine as well. I don't like Washington in this spot, man. Washington, it's their second game in the injured player theory now. So they had the first game in the injured player spot, and they looked really good last week, although I told you they did still give up a lot of yards to the Raiders, and the game was actually closer statistically than the final was. So Washington looked a little bit better than they actually were, but that was their first game without Jaden Daniels. So Marcus Mariota got in there. The team stepped up their level of play here, man, and now they have to go on the road, and they're 0-1 on the road so far. They got to face Atlanta. They might not totally pay attention to this Atlanta team right now, who's just kind of struggling right now, and Atlanta looked so bad last week, man. So it's really just kind of fading what happened last week, man. So we're going to go with Atlanta here. I know Washington does have the 3-0 Chargers up next, too, so I don't know if that's really going to be any cause for, like, a look ahead, but I like Atlanta in this one, man. It's the second game, again, with the injured player spot, so a lot of times after the team really steps up their game in that first game without that star player, they take a step back in the next game, man, because they put in all that effort in that first game. They don't put in as big of an effort the next time, so we're going to go with Atlanta. And again, I think playing on Atlanta is also part of this handicap because they got shut out last week. And, like, teams never get shut out in the NFL now. So it's just so bad that it's like that team has to bounce back after a game like that. Not only shut out, but shut out by one of the worst teams, one of the worst defenses in football. So it's got to be Atlanta in that one. BYU just sealed it. Yep, and Colorado still covered. So we're all... we all get our way in that one. And then finally, we're going to go with the Colts plus 3.5. And as I kind of talk these through, I'm not even sure I love all of these. I don't know why I have 4 plays this week, to be honest. Like, most of these are just kind of fading what happened last week. This is a bad spot for the Rams, though. We're going to take the Colts in this one. I know I said the Look ahead on this one was 5. It is, you can see it here. I think it opened this week at 5 as well, and it got drilled down to 3.5. 66% of tickets, 62% of the cash on the Rams. So the Rams are public with less of the money on them. So even though the Colts are 3-0, the public still wants the Rams. The public is still not really buying the Colts because what have they done so far? I mean, they beat the Dolphins and the Titans for 2 of their wins, so people are not really sold on the Colts right now. But that Colts offense is moving along with Daniel Jones there, man. He's got a lot of talent around him. Jonathan Taylor, stud. He's on my fantasy team. Pittman there. They got some weapons on that offense, man. But this is really a play against the Rams in this one more than it is anything else. I know Indianapolis has to go to the Pacific Coast, but at least it's not a late-night game. It is a roofed stadium, and the Rams don't tend to have that good of a home field advantage out there either, so take that into account. The LA fans, like, for whatever reason, it seems like Rams, Chargers, they just don't get a huge home field advantage there for whatever reason. The Colts actually travel decently, so hopefully it happens here. I know they're going to the Pacific Coast, but yeah, it's a roof stadium. I think they can play well in the stadium. Indianapolis, yeah, they're coming off that easy win over Tennessee. It is a second straight road game, but I think momentum might carry in this one. The public's just not going to be impressed with what Indy has done so far, and they basically think that they should have lost that game against Denver, which they only won on the leverage call. So the public's just not impressed with what the Colts have done so far. They're more impressed with the Rams. Yeah, I mean, the odds makers are basically saying the Rams are the better team here, slightly. The Rams, I mean, what did they do, though? They beat Tennessee on the road just like Indy did. They beat Houston at home in week 1, and that Houston offense is just injured. But, yeah, then the Rams did play well against Philly last week, and that is part of this handicap. That was a huge game for the Rams, man. They had to go out to Philly, so the Rams are having to travel back to the Pacific Coast as well here from the East Coast. So the Rams are having to travel cross-country this week as well, so that's not that easy to do. And they're coming off such a brutal loss, man. Like, they had that game against Philly. As I pointed out, that was a huge revenge game for the Rams because they lost at Philly in the playoffs last year. So big-time revenge facing the Super Bowl champions. They had the game in hand. They were winning 26-7 pretty late in the game. They blew the lead, and then they still had the chance to win at the end of the game-winning field goal. And then what happened? Blocked and returned for a touchdown the other way, and they lose the game. Absolutely brutal way to lose. And now they have to return home off of that to face an out-of-conference team. And then what do they have to do after this? They have to turn around and play the 49ers on Thursday night prime time in 4 days. That is a huge divisional matchup there. So I think this Colts game matters a lot less than those other two. I think this is a sandwich spot. And they do actually have Baltimore coming up after that too. But it's surrounded by much, much bigger games for them, man. This game is not going to really matter as much to them against the Colts, so we will take the Colts plus the points. And who knows, man, maybe my Indianapolis Colts will actually start the season 4-0. That would be absolutely absurd if it happens, but we're going to go with Indy in that game, and that's going to do it. Anna, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Yep, I hope everybody wins. That's going to do it for me here, man. The plays one more time. Again, you know me. It's always ridiculously ugly with me. We're going to go with the Giants plus 6.5, although I said wait on that just to see if you can get a 7. Probably we won't, but we'll see. New England minus 5.5. You might even get 5 on that. I mean, it's a dead number, so it doesn't really matter, but maybe. Atlanta minus the 1.5, or if you want to go money line on that, I wish I got it at plus 2.5 earlier in the week, but I like Atlanta in that one. And then the Colts plus 3.5. So we still at least get the key number there, even though I know it dropped from 5. A 4.5 would have been better, but 3.5. 3 is a much more key number, at least in football. So that's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Yeah, Bettor Off Dead. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Review on iTunes and Apple, man. I mean, yeah, on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify, excuse me. Give me the reviews on there. That helps me out. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube, so you can check that out too. Want to get some more subscribers on there. And then patreon.com/learntotoad, and you can get some bonus Uke content there. Maybe I should do some other bonus stuff, but I need some more ideas. Maybe some other bonus streams. Tomorrow morning, I'll be live again. We're going to talk about the last day of baseball. We'll see what happens, man. We know which teams are in and which are out at this point, I think, except maybe not in the National League, but in the American League, Houston is the team that is out. Houston is not going to make the playoffs, and Cleveland is in. Detroit is in because they beat my Red Sox, and the Red Sox are in. I don't know how the shuffling is going to pan out as far as which seed each one of those teams is, but yeah, it's insane. So we'll see what winds up happening, man. But we'll have to talk to Clint because he said he wanted to come back and do bald and talk about the playoff structure here because both of our teams are going to be in the playoffs now. So we'll see what happens, man. He's a Padres fan. I'm a Red Sox fan. I don't think either one is going to make the World Series, though, unfortunately. So we will see. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow morning to talk baseball and WNBA playoffs continuing as well. And we'll do the final, NFL market read as well. But hopefully we continue winning, man. We still had a winning day today, so I'm still happy about that. It just looked like it was going to be so good. And that Florida Atlantic one just kind of, it angers me, man. We should have been 5-1 today. And I had them in my pick 6 and pick 7 and whatever. But my best bet in one of them, because I'm in the pick 6 that I'm in, which is on Splash Sports, really big field there. So it's not likely I'm going to land in the money, but who knows. In that one, you pick one best bet that counts for double. It counts for 2 picks each week. And my best bet has won every week except for week 1. So, and it was Iowa today. So we'll see what happens. I'm doing okay in that game. So hopefully it continues. We'll see, man. And the other one doesn't have a best bet part of it, but the other one has one additional pick that you have to throw in there. And I think I might have lost my additional pick. It actually might have been San Jose State though. So maybe I actually got it. I forget what I added, but that's going to do it for me for now, man. So I'll be back in the morning. Peace. Thanks for hanging out, guys.